Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome just to a mini portion here of the end game. I know earlier today, Dominic spoke briefly regarding the current situation with Ice Cube, artist O'Shea Jackson, talking about the contract with Black America and kind of some of the controversies that kind of are developing between him and the political parties and the current election. And there's just a lot going on. And when I look at that situation, there's kind of like a maturation that happens for all men, um, especially men that are starting to do well for themselves and have come up from a socioeconomically challenged area. So, for a lot of people, they may or may not know, about Ice Cube. He started with a group a long time ago, in the mid '80s, uh, NWA, and they had a lot of success as young guys from the West Coast. They kind of put West Coast gangster rap on the map, and they were doing really well. And for me, it was kind of personal because I'm from Los Angeles, and their first album, Boys in the Hood, kind of we had that in LA on a bootleg tape before it was kind of like mainstream mainline. So I kind of grew up listening to these guys. And what you saw, the first life lesson for Ice Cube was when he left NWA and he went solo, and there was a reason for that. And there was some questionable management and how the money was divided, and who the real talent was of NWA. We kind of know, if you're aware of that Ice Cube wrote most of the rhymes, and it was produced by Dr. Dre, and other artists contributed to that. But I mean, really, between Dre and Cube, that really kind of made NWA with the content, and then Eazy-E's personality. Eric Wright, who since passed, he passed away from AIDS years ago. But what landed up happening was Eric Wright and Jerry Heller were kind of juicing the rest of the members, and Ice Cube saw that. He's like, you know what? There's something better out there for me. And that's kind of the first illustration that Ice Cube got, that, in business and life, you really got to look out for yourself. And was it a race thing? I don't know, because he kind of got taken advantage of, by Eric Wright, who was the homie, who was his friend. You know, so that just tells you that once money gets involved, there's a business element to it, that as an adult, as a male, as a female, whatever the case may be, however your interests develop, you are going to learn some life lessons. And Ice Cube learned those life lessons, and when he went solo, he had enough critical talent to make it happen for himself. And the kind of the next big step for Ice Cube, as he went solo, was he came out in a huge movie in 1991, Boys in the Hood, written by John Singleton, who's passed away a couple years ago. Who he was kind of like bothered when he would go on the Arsenio Hall show. John Singleton was an intern on the show. He was a USC film student, and he kept telling Cube, "Hey, I got a perfect role for you. You be the great guy for this." And and he was kind of like, "Whatever. Who is this dude? He's just like an intern at the Arsenio Hall show." And the guy wouldn't give up. And what happened with that? Boys in the Hood, huge, huge movie. It took kind of South Central LA and kind of put it on the map, what they're dealing with as a culture, a fatherless culture, a gang culture, a drug culture, lots of violence, with people really looking towards perhaps sports as a way to get out with one of the characters. And from that experience in acting, that kind of lit a fire for him. He started his own production company, Cube Vision, in 1995, and producing his own stuff. And he's been in mainstream movies. There's a whole generation of people that just know him as "Are We There Yet?" They didn't realize that he was a gangster rapper. And he's evolved over time. He went from NWA to a solo career, Boys in the Hood, Are We There Yet?, his own production company. And when he first left the group, there was some kind of diss tracks that kind of tell you what kind of frame of thought that Ice Cube was in. There was a song that when he dissed NWA, there was a line in a song called "No Vaseline, I Never Have Dinner with the President," and it was kind of repeated a couple times, and that's in reference to Eazy-E going to a fundraiser when he was invited by Bush 41 to the White House. So now we fast forward from 1991 to 2020, and Ice Cube is he said a couple things. He's like, "Hey, you want the black vote? The Democrats want the black vote, and their number one objective is to get the current president out of office." Okay, we got that. And his question is, what's next? What are you going to bring to the black community after November 3rd, other than failed promises? Because the very district he grew up in has been Maxine's district for a number of years. And there's a guy challenging her out there in California, Joe Collins, who is a conservative, who is a Navy veteran, served 12 years in the Navy, and they're having that race in that area, and he's making his case that what's changed for you in South Central with Maxine Waters. So now Ice Cube's starting to see things from a different perspective, and I don't think he's gone from Democrat to conservative, but he certainly now he approached both parties, and as Dominic said, the Democratic Party said, "Hey, we'll talk to you after the election," which kind of holds you hostage, right? Like, if you want an audience with me, we want to make sure that we're garnering your vote. The other side to that is he talked to the Trump's people, and they got him on the calendar. They had a couple discussions. They moved some things around, and they were able to commit to some money to the black community, which is his goal, which is understandable. So his line from 1991, "Never have dinner with the president," well, you're having meetings with the president. So that just tells you the maturation of a man. But I will tell you, when I look at this situation, as an African American, as a Hispanic, insert intersectionality demographic here, it doesn't matter what it is. I will tell you, from my experience, whatever race you are, whatever background you are, if you're waiting for a political party to help your community, you're going to be waiting for a long time. Neither party is going to help you the way you think they are. Both parties are really there to attempt to stay in power as long as they can. They would virtually say and do anything to stay into power. And when I look at this, you see all the theatrics, right? The current Supreme Court nomination going down in the Senate Judiciary Committee, and it's a lot of theatrics and hyperbolic statements, and it doesn't matter, because if it was roles reversed, parties, the Democratic Party would be doing the exact same thing, because as the Democrats, all they do is complain about Trump. For 8 years, all the Republicans did was complain about Obama. So basically, they basically have the same role, and they act the same way. Sometimes I wonder, as Americans, and I truly love this country because I've served it for so long, and I believe in the concept of America. But sometimes I wonder if the senators and the congressmen and all the lobbyists, if they're just like, are we watching some horrible Shakespeare play, and we think it's real? Because if you look at all these individuals, they're all multimillionaires, and they all only make $175,000 a year. Most major city managers in a small area, that's probably what they make a year, 175. A superintendent in top 10 city in America, they're making about 175, 200,000 a year. Are any of them worth $100 million? Or any of their spouses worth, $50 million? They're not. So my point to that is, if you're relying on a political party, whether you're a conservative or Democrat, to help you move yourself out of one socioeconomic group to another, it's not going to happen. We've proven that. If you follow GOP principles down south, their education is still atrocious. So their lot for, hey, we're going to make it better for everyone, that's not true. Alabama, Mississippi, southern states, their education, their resources is just not available, and nothing's really changed. Great people, great cities, great states, they're Americans. They deserve the best, but they're not being taken care of correctly. And then on the other side, look at Chicago, Baltimore, failed states completely and utterly, run by the Democrats. So there's failed states run by the Democrats, and if you can say the educational system down south is a failed state run by the Republicans. And after my life working with a number of different people, Every African American person that I've seen that's hit it out of the park, in the military, outside of the military, every Hispanic person, every Asian person, doesn't matter. Put whatever demographic, whatever gender, whatever sexual orientation. I will tell you, all the successful people that I know that fit that model or that intersectionality map, not one single person has ever prospered or thrived hiding under the victim blanket. They made it happen. I've served with African American guys that came from very, very challenging environments, and they're crushing it. They're crushing life. They're crushing it as a father. They're crushing it as a husband. They're crushing it as a worker. They're providing for their family. They're there for their children. And they never once played the victim card. I never once heard any of my friends tell me, hey, I can't really get promoted until I vote for this particular party. I really can't finish my education unless I vote for this particular party. And you can tell, from the time that I served from 88 to 2016, I served under Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama. I was out before Trump got in, so that was my last president, was President Obama. But all the men that I saw thrive and do well, none of them took on the victim card. So I will tell you, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. I could care less who you vote for. I will tell you that if you want to do well in life, you got to ask questions. I love the fact that Ice Cube is a guy from South Central LA that's had many different business experiences that he learned early on with NWA. He's thrived on his own as his own man, his own production company, and now he's questioning both parties. You know what I say to that? Out freaking standing. That is the best thing you can do, is question both parties. If you're ride or die with a party, then you have either blind spots or you're using them to be able to make up for the things that you feel that you shouldn't be doing. And that's the reality. You should look at each individual issue and how does that fit in your value system? How does that fit in your socioeconomic system? And how does that fit in what your goals are? If people are not lifting you up, then they're tearing you down. But how long can people say they're going to lift you up and they never do? And that goes on both sides of the aisle. So I would say research, what are your goals? What are your values? And you align them with a candidate for that particular period in time. We all have different seasons in life. We all look at situations differently. Example, 1991, never have dinner with the president. 2020, I have my people contact the president's people. That's the maturation of a man. And it has nothing to do with him being black, white, or brown, or any other color. That is the maturation of a man. He's taking the situation in front of him and he's applying his own critical thinking to a situation, and he will not be labeled, typecasted, or feel compelled to comply. He's being his own man. And for that, I think that's a phenomenal thing. I encourage everyone else to try to be their own person and not fall victim to, hey, I'm Hispanic from East LA, I have to be a Democrat. Or I'm from a rural area in Montana, I have to be a Republican. How about you think what's important to you and you make your own decision? I hope you guys really take into consideration what the impact of the election is, not only for the presidency, but for the House and the Senate, and what the ripple effect is of what that potential cabinet could look like, whether it's under a Trump or a Biden administration. And how does that impact your family? How does that impact your value system? Not your feelings, not what makes you sad, yellow makes you sad, or your emotions, or whatever the case may be. What is the real tangible issue? Because at the end of the day, if you agree with the policy but not a personality, personalities don't help you pay your bills. They don't. If it's a policy that Joe Biden has that supports your family and it does a better job for your family, that's fine. If it's a policy that's better suited with the Trump administration, that's fine. I would just highly encourage everyone to make a decision for themselves, and don't allow the way your family voted dictate how you vote, and don't allow how everyone around you votes. How about you think for yourself? The more individuals we can get to think for themselves you'll have a stronger foundation to be able to have a good, cogent conversation with people and not just fall in like the rest of the sheet. With that, I bid you a great good night. I hope everybody's doing well, and God bless. And we'll be on the net soon. Dominic and I doing another podcast on the end game. There's so much to talk about in current events, so we're going to pick a topic. If there's something that you would love for us to discuss, we'd be more than happy to get that on the agenda and have a great conversation. With that, you guys have a great night.